Second important point of the Victorian age, Samuel Taylor Coleridge from 1772 to 1834. He was suffering from a bipolar disorder, a kind of anxiety or depression. He was also suffering from severe back pain. Doctors suggested him to take drugs as he became addicted to it. Opium made his mind more imaginative, and their best works written under the influence of drugs. It is believed that Dorothy was secretly in love with Coleridge. When Dorothy saw Coleridge after 3 years, she said, I saw him after 3 years and he was twice of his age. He is known for his mysticism and the content he had developed in his literature. Coleridge was heavily influenced and inspired by German idealist philosophy. He was inspired by Immanuel Kant, Gotthold Lessing, and Friedrich Schiller. He introduced German idealism into English culture. Coleridge became a bridge between Romanticism in England and German idealism in Germany. Coleridge came in contact with Robert Southey and wanted to develop a utopian society. So Coleridge, Southey, and five more families bought land near the river Susquehanna and tried to establish a utopian society. Utopian society means independence for women, common property law, education, intellectual sharing, and all. But this resulted in failure. The utopian society was named Pantisocracy Society. In the words of Stupert Brooke, all that he has written can be bound within 20 pages, but the cover will be of pure gold. He was also called Sage of Highgate. He coined many familiar words and phrases, including suspension of disbelief. Some of the important prose works written by St. Coleridge are Biographia Literaria, written in 1817, a critical autobiography published in 2 volumes. Coleridge himself described it as an immethodical miscellany of life and opinions. It is divided into several parts. It contains the first instance of the phrase suspension of disbelief. It is the willingness of a reader to ignore critical thinking in order to enjoy the work. Reader or audience must react as if the characters are real and the events are happening now, even though they know that it is only a story. In the first part, he talks about his friendship with Southey and Wordsworth. In the second part, he attacks Wordsworth's preface to Lyrical Ballad and he talks about his own theory of poetry. In the 13th part, he talks about the distinction between imagination and fancy. He further divides imagination into two kinds, primary and secondary imagination. Second work, Lectures and Notes on Shakespeare and Other English Poets from 1811 to 1819. He gives lectures on English poetry and German philosophy. He has talked about his views and opinions about Shakespeare and his works. He shared 4 poems in lyrical ballads, namely Rime of the Ancient Mariner, Foster Mother's Tale, Nightingale, and Dungeon. Aeolian Harp, written in 1795, a conversation poem. It focuses on man's relationship with nature and it discusses the idea of one life. One life means it is an idea which says that man and nature are intimately connected. Second work, Frost at Midnight, written in 1798. His son was sleeping in cradle and he was looking at the sun. It expresses hope that Coleridge's son, Hartley, will become a true child of nature. Third work, This Lime Tree Bore My Prison, 1798. It talks about the imagination of loneliness and solitude. Next work, Nightingale, a conversation poem written in 1798. It begins with Milton's line in El Pensereso about Nightingale and then it corrects it. Poem introduced Philomela, a character from Greek legend. Next work, Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, written in 1798, first poem in the collection Lyrical Ballads. It is a poem in 7 parts. Theme is people should honor and respect all living things. There is a Latin epigraph before the poem. It was adopted by Coleridge from Thomas Brunet's work. Opening scene is set in a wedding party where there is a person who is trying to talk to a wedding guest one by one, but nobody is listening because this person is mysterious. He is having a dead bird hanging in his neck. Bird is albatross. Finally, he stops someone and then he tells his story. He tells that he with his 200 friends was sailing to a place. It was bright sunny day. Everybody was happy and found a lot of birds around. Just for sake of fun, this sailor picked his arrow and targeted a bird and killed it. Then the moment he killed the bird, Albatross, all of his friends they criticized him for killing Albatross. But the weather became more pleasant, more clear, sun becomes more brighter. They thought that maybe the albatross was bringing bad luck and by killing albatross we avoided the bad luck. So they started praising the act of killing albatross which resulted in punishment for all. The sea is becalmed and the crew dies of thirst. All of these 200 sailors got frozen at their places. They were alive but were not able to move. They were given a punishment of being frozen where life and death started playing a game with their lives. Finally, they repent, then God forgives them with a message that love each and every animal that is a service to God. The who killed the albatross has been given a special punishment that the bird albatross will always hang in his neck. It will always remind him of his guilt, and he will have to tell people to convey the same message that all creatures created by God should be loved equally. Some of the important lines: water, water everywhere, and all the boats did shrink. Water, water everywhere, nor any drop to drink. One more important line: he prayeth well who loveth well, both man and bird and beast. He prayeth best who loveth best all things, both great and small. Next work, Love, written in 1799. It is a ballad written for his wife Sarah Hutchinson. It inspires John Keats to write La Ballade Dame Sans Mercy. Next work, France an Ode, written in 1798. He talked about the French Revolution. Next work, Dejection an Ode, written in 1802. It was a reply to Wordsworth's Resolution and Independence. It tells that he has lost the ability to write poetry and he is in a state of poetic paralysis. Next work is Remorse, written in 1813. Old title is Osorio. It is a tragedy in blank verse. Next work, Kubla Khan, written in 1816. A vision in a dream, a fragment. It is thought to have been written in 1797, but it was not published until 1816. Lord Byron persuaded him to publish it. The figure of Abyssinian maid appears in the poem. Coleridge was reading a book written by Samuel Purchas known as Pilgrimage under the influence of opium. After reading the book, he slept and saw a dream. When he woke up, he is so influenced by the dream that he started penning it down. His dream was about a person who establishes a country in the mid of the desert known as Xanadu, and the name of the king was Kubla Khan. Story of a majestic king Kubla Khan who converted the desert into a beautiful land. He says that this place was surrounded by the river twice 5 miles fertile. When he was about to complete the work, he was disturbed by a visitor. Coleridge told us that the person who came to meet us was a man from Porlock. After meeting, when he tried to write it, he forgot the content. Important line: ancestral voices professing war. Christabel, written in 1816, a long narrative ballad in 2 parts. It stands for Coleridge's own concept of willing suspension of disbelief. Coleridge The first part was repeatedly written in 1797 and the second in 1800. Coleridge planned three additional parts, but these were never completed. It is a story of a girl named Christabel. In the midnight, she is praying for her lover in the mid of a forest. She wanted to pray for her lover near oak tree. She had some faith related to the oak tree. Suddenly she overhears a lamenting sound. A woman is lamenting and crying. This makes Christabel curious. Coleridge has given us all the details of wood, which was very scary. He said forests were in autumn and they were shedded their leaves. Lots of wolves were scratching. Jackals were there on sound, and full moon is playing hide and seek with dark clouds. This work actually stands for Coleridge's own concept of feeling suspension of disbelief. In this work, Coleridge made us believe that there is something wrong, but in entire poetry, he doesn't use a word witch. He simply makes us feel that there is something wrong and the lady is a witch.